Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Michael Boyd. I'm here with Read, Remember, Repeat. And we just want to let you guys know, we could be doing something selfish, things for ourselves, right? But we started a charity, and this is very unselfish on our part, because what we want to do is give back to the kids, the youth, the orphanage, the homeless, the people that don't have those new ideas because they're stuck in a revolving door. So what we want you guys to do is definitely reach out to us. This is the link right here. Help us save a lot.
Collecting my money, be up in his own motivation to win it. Opponents killing, one mission succeed. No lie that I'm on the bottom of the streets. It's smoking and these. Some youngers at beast, they killing the beast. Hard to compete, better not sleep. It comes to your piece, then I repeat. Blowing the money I'm getting from winning. Hating me now, if you see me, you get it. Talking so cheap, wonder why I don't listen. I'm falling so sorry.
Push these on me like push these on me like push these on me like pushing the snakes, I'm pushing the fakes, I'm pushing no more of me like pushing no more of me like yeah. Hey girl, I be the music, chucking the boom, then with assuming.
Let's go. How's everybody feeling today? Welcome back to another Read, Remember, Repeat episode, and it is your host with the most, Michael Boyd. Now, we embarked on a new book, a new journey, right? It's called The GIVER, right? And this is the book right here, The GIVER, a little story. Oh, man. Sorry about that. A little story about business, about a business idea, right? And it's by BURG and John David Mann. We left off on page 13. And where we left off, the guy Joe was just meeting the chairman Pender, right? So Pender is this, big corporate guy, you know what I mean? And you just hear about his name through the walls, but he's really up there in ranks and riches. And Joe went to go meet him. Joe was so ambitious that he hit him up and he called him as soon as he got his number, and he was on his way to meet him. So this is the conversation that he's having. And I want to ask a question on here, right? So before we jump into the book, a question that I want to ask you guys is, what is your favorite book of all time, right? So I want y'all to write in the comments, what is your favorite book of all time, so we can create some conversation, get some more things going in here, you know what I mean? And yeah, man, without further ado, let's jump right into it, right? The GIVER. Now, it says, skeptical look, and no, it says, have you ever heard people say you can't always get what you want? Joe grinned. You mean the Rolling Stones? Pender smiled. Actually, I imagine people were saying that well before Mick Jagger's time. But yes, that's the general idea. You're not going to tell me that's not true, are you? That we actually do get what we want? No, said Pender. That one is true. In life, you often don't get what you want. But he leaned forward again, and his voice grew softer and with emphasis. Here's what you do get. You get what you expect. Joe frowned again, trying to mentally test out the truth of this last thought. Pender leaned back and sipped his coffee, watching Joe after a moment's silence. He continued, or put it another way, what you focus on is what you get. You've heard the expression, go looking for trouble, and that's what you'll find. Joe nodded. It's true, and not only about trouble. It's true about everything. Go looking for conflict, and you'll find it. Go looking for people to take advantage of you, and they generally will. See the world as dog-eat-dog place, and you'll always find a bigger dog looking at you as if you're his next meal. Go looking for the best in people, and you'll be amazed at how much talent, ingenuity, empathy, and goodwill you'll find. Beast mode. Ultimately, the world treats you more or less the way you expect it to be treated. Pender paused for a moment to let Joe absorb that thought, then added one more. In fact, Joe, you'll be amazed at just how much you have to do with what happens to you. Joe drew a breath, so he spoke this next thought slowly. thinking it through out loud. You're saying people don't take advantage of you because you don't expect them to. That because you don't put any focus on selfishness and greed, even when it's all around you, it doesn't have much impact on you. Then he had a flash of inspiration, like a healthy immune system. The disease is all around you, but you don't catch it. Penda's eyes sparkled. Wonderful. That's an exquisite way of putting it. He kept talking as he scribbled in a little notebook he had produced from his inside jacket. I have to remember that. You mind if I use that bit of brilliance? No, go ahead, Joe gestured grandly. Take my brilliance. I'm full of it. He paused, then added, least that's what my wife always says. Penda burst out laughing as he slipped his little notebook back into the unseen pocket. He put both hands on his knees and looked directly at the younger man. Joe, I'd like to do something with you. I'd like to show you what I call my 5 laws of stratospheric success. If you can make a little time, say, every day for a week. Seriously? Joe nearly stuttered. For a week? I don't know how much time I can take off. Penda waved his hand vaguely, as if to say, time means nothing. Not a problem. All we'll need is 1 hour a day, your lunch hour. You do take time for lunch every day. Joe nodded, dumbfounded. The man was going to meet with him every day for a week and hand over the details of his most valuable trade secret. First, though, Penda continued, first you'll need to agree to my conditions. Joe's heart sank. The conditions. He had forgotten all about that. It was only after he agreed to Penda's conditions, Brenda had said that they would set up further meetings. Joe gulped. I really don't have the means. Penda held up his hands. Please, don't worry. It's nothing like that. So Joe began. Do I need to sign an NDA? Or this brought a big booming laugh from Penda. No. Non-disclosure agreements. If anything, the opposite. I call these 5 laws my trade secret. Not because I don't want people to find them, but for exactly the opposite reason. I call them my trade secret so that people will find them, so they'll seek them, so they'll place the proper value on them, because it's really a term of honor. Excuse me, Joe was lost. Penda smiled. The word itself, secret, originally it meant something treasured, something sifted, weighted, and set apart for its special value. Actually, if I had my way, everyone would know these 5 laws. In fact, he nodded, that's exactly why I have put these conditions in place. Actually, it's just one condition. Are you ready? Joe nodded. Family, y'all know what's going on. We're going to cut to the middle half of the show, which is source time. And let's get it, man. Let's go.
Season where you're about to enter consecutive wins. But anytime you set a goal, get ready for the defense to come out. I want you to know that anytime God is about to bless you, he's going to first reveal your enemies. He's going to first reveal people that's not supposed to be around you. You're looking around like, man, my friend just turned on that person. Listen, don't worry about it. Get ready. There's a level up that's about to come. Man, my car just broke down. Don't worry. A level up is about to come. There's some things that are happening in your life. They have to happen right now to get you ready for the next level. There's some gratitude he's trying to put in your heart so you get ready for the next level. So don't get afraid when you lose people and people go. You didn't lose them. They were removed. There's a difference. Before you get blessed in the next level, we got to make sure that everybody around you is supposed to be in that next chapter. That's the key. So if you're going through this season and you're not really understanding it, embrace it. Because I promise you, that's symptoms of the level up coming. Run it.
And we are back, gang. I hope everybody had got them a drink of water, you know what I mean? Something, quick refreshment. But we're going to jump right back into this book, you know what I mean? Let's get it. Joe nodded. I need you to agree that you will test every law I show you by actually trying it out. Not by thinking about it, not by talking about it, but by applying it in your life. Joe started to give his assent, but Penda stopped him and continued. And that's not all. You must apply each law right away. The same day you first learn it. Joe looked at Penda to see if he was kidding. Seriously? before I go to sleep that night, or I'll turn into a pumpkin? Penda's face relaxed into a grin. No, you have a point. You won't turn into a pumpkin. But if you don't abide by my condition, our meetings will come to an end. But, Joe stammered, not to sound impertinent, how would you know? Another excellent question. How would I know? Penda nodded thoughtfully. I wouldn't, but you would. It's the honor system. If you don't find a way to apply each law I show you the very same day you learn it, I'll trust that the next morning you'll call Brenda to cancel the rest of our appointments. He looked at Joe. I have to know you're taking this serious, but here's what's far more important. You have to know you're taking this seriously. Joe nodded slowly. I think I understand. You want to make sure I'm not wasting your time. Fair enough? Penda smiled. Joe, no offense, but you don't have the power to do that. Joe looked confused. I mean, the power to waste my time, only I can do that. And truthfully, it's a vice I gave up a long time ago. The reason for my condition is that I don't want to see you wasting your time. Joe looked down and saw Penda's outstretched hand. He took it and gave it a firm shake. He felt a thrill go through him, as if he had just embarked on an adventure worthy of Indiana Jones, and mirrored the chairman's broad smile with one of his own. You've got a deal. Chapter 3, the law of value. The law of value. Right? Just before noon that Monday, Joe arrived at the great stone mansion, eager to see what lay in store. All he knew was that he would be meeting with Penda and a friend of his, a real estate magnate, who had agreed to talk with Joe about the first law of stratospheric success. Joe still wondered about this whole giving business and whether or not this trade secret contained anything that would really work for him. But it's sure working for Penda. He mused as he drove up the broad tree-lined drive. And it wasn't just the man's resume and magnificent property. The guy radiates success. He thought, it's not just money. It's something far more powerful than money. He had thought about nothing else all weekend and still couldn't quite identify what that something was. Penda stood waiting for him as he rounded the circular drive and pulled up to the stone steps. Before Joe could cut the engine, Penda opened the passenger's door and hopped in. Okay if we take your car? Don't want to be late for our meeting. Joe felt a stab of disappointment. He wasn't going to get any of Rachel's famous coffee at all. Here, said Penda as he buckled himself into his seat and handed over a giant mug of steaming hot coffee. You can enjoy this along the way. 20 minutes later, they arrived downtown and parked at Infrake's Italian-American Cafe. Obviously, much more than a cafe, the full-service restaurant was jammed with a line forming at the door. On their way into the building, someone pushed gruffly past them, complaining about how crowded it was, and bumped into Penda. Much to Joe's surprise, Penda simply smiled at him. The moment they were inside the door, the maitre d' came over and escorted the two of them to a corner table. Of course, thought Joe. Penda must be a VIP here. Thank you, Sal, said Penda. Sal bowed to Penda and winked at Joe. It struck Joe that Penda was exceedingly gracious to everyone they encountered, and as they took their seats, Joe asked Penda about that. It never hurts to be kind to people, Penda replied. Once when I was a young man, I was walking to a young lady's home to meet her for our very first date. I was nervous as I turned onto her street. An older man walked right into me, banging his head into mine and tromping on my foot. He was embarrassed that he hadn't been watching where he was going, and mortified that he might have injured me. No harm done, I assured him. I've been told I have a hard head. I hope you didn't hurt yourself. He laughed with surprise. I wished him a wonderful day and hurried on to meet my young lady friend. About 15 minutes after I arrived at the girl's home, I heard the front door open. Daddy, she called out, I want you to meet my date, Pender stopped and glanced at Joe as if expecting him to finish the story. Joe did. And let me guess, it was the man who had smacked into you? It was, agreed Pender. Back from a quick trip to the store, he complimented his daughter on her good judgment and told her I was a thoughtful, polite young man. So you could say your relationship got off on the right foot, observed Joe. Pender laughed. Indeed it did. Stayed that way too. That beautiful young lady has been my wife for nearly 50 years. We're gonna leave it right there, right? And that was a gem right there by itself, right? Because he was polite, and he was so gracious. He bumped into a guy that happens to be his wife's father. And the guy, you know, basically gave his daughter his hand because it was just like, what a nice guy that you got with. You know, I can trust this guy. This guy's an amazing, you know, individual. But yeah, man, I see y'all tonight, man. The Go Giver. Y'all see what's going on. You know what I mean? Turn up, get lit. You know what I mean?
It comes to a piece, then I repeat. Blowing the money I'm getting from winning. Hating me now, you see me, you get it. Talking so cheap, wonder why I don't listen. I'm starting so swaggy, so bright for my blessing. Get buckets, we ballin'. Money keep calling. There we got it. Cross you left off. Highlight repeat, spinning like spot. MJ 3, nigga, you pro. When I stepped up, show me love, shut the whole shit down. My team with me, we turned up, we showing out. We get money, baby, blow hella pounds. Watch it go around. We keep the party jumping, see the party jump. That's how it's going down. We keep it jumping, we keep the party jumping. We out here getting money, we ain't worried about nothing. We keep it jumping, we keep the party jumping.